Okay, I haven't done one of these for a while. This is part of my modern series. To recap, what I have are a series of obsolete modern decks from about 2017 to about 2020. I love playing modern. I like having Commander's great, don't get me wrong, but I love having the option of playing an intense, hardcore two-player format. To feed that, I have these obsolete modern decks that are designed to play against each other. They're not really built for outside tournament play. Most of them would get crushed in any sort of metagame now, except Boros Burn, which is Burn. It's always viable. And Merfolk, which I keep relatively current. I keep it in line with the current meta. So I have Absent Evolution, Boros Burn, General Domain, Mono Black. I'm not really sure what to call this. Ayara Unearth something. Soul Sisters, Troll Warden, and I'm going to be showing you Death and Taxes. So this has been triggered by Loose Goose Gamer, this fan of my channel. For the longest time I hadn't done the modern because I thought nobody cared about it, so I've only been doing EDH. And he asked me to return to the modern series so he can see some of my obsolete decks. If any of you are sick of modern being a fast rotating format as opposed to the non-rotating format it was originally advertised as, I recommend you try this. Just find some old modern decks you like from previous eras. Have your friends build theirs, or you build a couple. They're pretty cheap too, because most of the cards are no longer in the meta, so most of the cards have no financial value. The only ones that really do are the fetch lands and the shock lands. I'll show you. So let's start with Death and Taxes. Land, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 basic planes. Only 8 basic planes in the deck, in a mono white deck. That's not much, so this is what gets us around that. Bring this up. So we have Ether Vial. This is a key card in the deck. Just like Merfolk, it's a key card Merfolk. So I need a full set of 4. Remember what I just said about cheap? So these dropped in price about, I think, 30% from what I paid for them a year ago. So even these, the second fanciest versions you could possibly find, are really not that much. And if you just get the plain ones, the non-foil, or you get the, what are they from? The ones I like are the Dark Steel and these Double Masters. I don't like the other printing, and I forget where it originally was, but I don't like the art on it, so I don't use those, but those are cheap. So 4 Ether Vials you need, because idea is you get it first turn, and you start putting charge counters on it. You stop at 3 or 4. Ideally, you would have one at 2 and one at 3, and then you just need to hold up mana for your Restoration Angels. Because you can keep ticking up, but you cannot tick down. I read about a game once, though, as an aside. I read about a game where somebody forgot, and they didn't forget to put a counter on. They forgot they weren't supposed to, because of their deck. So they just kept ticking it up and up and up, turn after turn. And it got to 9 counters, and their opponent was freaking out. He's like, what the hell is he going to do for 9 mana with an Ether Vial? And eventually blew it up. So 4 Ether Vials. Right, so then we have 4 Ghost Quarters. Okay, Ghost Quarter is another card that's fallen out of the meta. It's no longer as respected as it was because of Field of Ruin, and I think there's now a better card than Field of Ruin. Again, I don't keep up with the current modern meta, so I can't really say. So Ghost Quarter, it's kind of even, isn't it? I mean, you blow up somebody's land, and then they go find a basic land to replace it. Well, that doesn't really stop them. Field of Ruin, same thing. Destroy target non-basic land, so this only hits non-basic land. I mean, you can blow up a basic land, and then they go find a basic land. How are you getting ahead? Field of Ruin. Add a colorless. 2, sacrifice it. Both players go find a basic land. That's why we have Leonin Arbiter. So you trigger the Field of Ruin or the Ghost Quarter when your opponent cannot pay the 2, so they cannot search the library. If you can pay the 2 and search your library, if you trigger the Field of Ruin, hey, you're golden. You're good to go. So the deck has 4 Leonin Arbiters to stop people from searching the library. You don't have anything in this deck to search the library, so you really don't care. Shevet Dunes. So, yeah, it burns you if you need the white out of it. But if you need to, if you need just that last bit of point of damage to smash somebody and kill them, okay, you spend 4, sacrifice Shevet Dunes, smash. That's what they're in for. Kind of a cheap side effect. Right, now we're getting into the meat of the deck. Flicker Wisp. This is why you need the vial on 3. You've got the vial on 3, and you've got something you want to flicker, or somebody's attacking you with something you don't want to get hit by. You flash into play Flicker Wisp with the Ether Vial, and exile that permanent. And it comes in back at the end of the turn, under its owner's control. So whatever's vexing you, artifact, enchantment, planeswalker, they've got a planeswalker and they're about to do an ultimate. Flicker it. It comes back into play with starting loyalty. And it's gone for a little while. And you can do it at instant speed with Ether Vial. So that's the reason why there's 4 Flicker Wisp. Something I want to do is I want to get 4 foil ones, but they're still expensive. The non-foil, the flat ones, cheap. Archon of Emeria. This is a newer addition to the deck. This is something I put in recently. Recently being probably about a year ago. So again, you want to vial this in or get it into play quickly. So each player can't cast more than 1 spell a turn. If you've got the vial, you really don't care about this because you're not going to be casting that many spells. You're going to be vialing your creatures in. And your opponent's non-basic lands come into play tapped. So it should slow them down. If you get this out early, should slow them down, slow them down, so you can beat them down. There's 2 of those. Okay. My build only has 2 Restoration Angels. The reason is she only hits creatures you control. So she only flickers your creatures, can only save your creatures. But she natively has Flash. So you don't have to worry about vialing her in if you have 4 mana up and you can flash her into play and you haven't played another spell when you want to play the Restoration Angel. Or you just have vial in 4. I mean, your choice. The limitation is she can only target non-angels. Well, technically there's only 2 angels in the deck. I'll show you why technically when we get to the end, when we get to the one-ofs. So there's 2 of these beautiful ladies, flying 3/4, so they can do a bit of pummeling in the air for you. Okay, Ganjo Castle. I swapped out of planes so I can protect Thalia better. Thalia I want to get down early. If your opponent is playing anything that isn't creature based. So against burn, Thalia is pretty good until they bolt her. I mean, if I play Death and Taxes against burn, they're just going to bolt Thalia. But at least it costs them 2. So there's that. Unless I've got a Ganjo Castle. And I can figure out something else to get around it. So one white tap, prevent the next 2 damage we dealt to legendary creature this turn. There's only only 3 legendary creatures. There's another one, but like I said, I'll show you that at the end. So 2/1 First Striker for 2 mana. There's 3 Thalias. Then I've got Giver of Runes. This is a recent addition from Modern Horizons 2. Another target creature you control gains protection from colorless or the color of your choice until end of turn. Mother of Runes, I believe she said any creature. And she didn't protect from colorless. She only protected from the color of your choice. I cannot remember offhand if Mother of Runes said another creature or if she could protect herself I can't remember. I think she can. And also, I believe she was only a 1/1. Giver of Runes is a 1/2 that can do this. So she comes down early, and if she doesn't die, you can protect your creatures. You can protect your Thalia from a lightning bolt. Eldrazi Displacer. Alright, there's 3 of these, and that's another reason for the Ghost Quarters in the Field of Ruin, so you have colorless mana for the activation cost. 3 for a 3/3. That's pretty crappy these days. I remember years ago, 3 for a 3/3. That was a good deal. Wow, that's efficient. That's fair. Not anymore. Now it's got to be, have some kind of crazy ability, like exiling another target creature. So 2 colorless, and of course it doesn't tap, so you can, as much mana as you have, you can do this multiple times. Exile another target creature, and then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control immediately. So it will stop an attacker, it will flicker your creatures, but it won't save them from any kind of wrath effect, because it'll just flicker and come back and say, oh wow, the wrath is still happening. 4 Eldrazi Displacers. 4 Blade Splicer. Even when I first built this deck, she was outmoded. She was replaced by something else in Death and Taxes. And I think now the deck has completely evolved. I think it's not even mono-white anymore. I think it's green-white hate bears. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I haven't really been paying attention. So for 3, you get a 1/1 and a 3/3. 3/3 colorless Golem artifact creature token. Golem creatures you control at first strike. So as long as she doesn't die, she gives your 3/3s first strike, and if you flicker her in response to a kill spell, she'll come back and give you another Golem. How can you not love that? There's 4 Blade Splicers. Speaking of golems, there are 4 Mutavaults. 1 for the colorless mana, 2 for the random relevance, say against Merfolk. If this deck is playing against Merfolk and you got a Mutavault out and they're smashing into you, you might as well smash back a little bit too. Oh, you've got Lord of Atlantis, and you've got islands. You've got a lot of islands. I'll make this into a Merfolk and punch you back. How do you like that? It also becomes a Golem. So let's say you're playing against Merfolk, like I said, and they don't have a Lord. If you've got Blade Splicer out, you can turn the Mutavault into a creature. It becomes a Merfolk. So whatever they might have pumping up Merfolk, which is pretty much the Lords that give them Island Walk, except for Hexcatcher. Hexcatcher only gives them +1/+1. She doesn't get the Island Walk. So if the Merfolk player has Hexcatcher and you have a Blade Splicer, your Mutavault gets bigger because it's Merfolk, and it gets first strike because it's the Golem. Tricks. Path to Exile. I understand this is another card, yet another card, that is no longer played in the meta. When I was playing Modern, when I was playing it more intensively, I mean, this was the go-to. If you weren't playing black, this was the go-to removal spell. This is it. And it's also good in Death and Taxes, because if you have Lean and Arbiter out, when you exile the creature, if they don't have 2 mana to go search for a basic land, creature just is gone. They don't get anything. No life, no land, nothing. Just exiled. Alright, down to the Singleton cards. So, Fiend Hunter. Some builds are playing Fairgrounds Warden, and I don't really know why. Fairgrounds Warden, probably because of the casting cost, is different. So Fairgrounds Warden is a 1/3 Dwarf Soldier for 2 colorless and 1 white, not 1 colorless and 2 white. But Fairgrounds Warden, because its exile effect is tied to the Fairgrounds Warden, you can't flicker it. Fiend Hunter, you can put him into play. His ability goes on the stack, and then you can flicker him, and the ability resolves and permanently exiles the creature because it's separated. I had to look this up. I really had to look this up because I didn't see the difference. really, and it's because it's two separate abilities. Fairgrounds Warden, because it is one unified ability, you cannot flicker the creature to have it permanently exile something. So keep that in mind. Fiend Hunter for the win. Yeah, you saw a bit of red back there, didn't you? Don't get excited yet. I'll show you. Stonecloaker. I kind of just have him in for fun. So, 2 and a white for a flashy gargoyle. Comes into play, return a creature you control the owner's hand. A lot of times it'll be him, because you will exile a card in the graveyard from the game. So somebody has something nasty in the graveyard and you want to get rid of it, cloak it. You can Ether Violent into play, you can pay the mana cost and flash it in, whatever you want to do. But there's only one copy, because in my modern ecosystem there are not that many relevant graveyard cards. But there are a few, so it's worth having on Stonecloaker. Now, for the queen of the deck. Akroma, Angel of Fury. And you're thinking, how the fuck are you going to cast an 8 mana red creature in this pile of cards? Player's a morph creature. She's got morph. Player face down for 3. She's a 2/2 nothing. And then you flicker her. And she flips over and she says, "Surprise, motherfuckers! It's me, Akroma! I'm gonna kick all your asses!" In a more feminine voice, she would say something like that, and probably not in those words. She would probably be a lot more poetic, more Shakespeare-esque, gentle, angry. But yeah, that's the trick with Akroma. So play her face down as a 2/2 morph creature, flicker her at instant speed if you want to, and she flips over and becomes a 6/6 flying trample protection, white protection from blue. Fire breathing, which you don't have red, so you're not going to give her fire breathing. But there's not a whole lot of decks that can handle her. Not that many decks at all. I mean, burn, that's 2 lightning bolts, and if you have an active Giver of Runes, well, that's not going to work. Most of my other decks, the removal is Path to Exile. Protection white, that's not going to work. So my black deck, how would it kill Akroma? The only way my black deck could really kill Akroma is with Liliana of the Veil, forcing you to sacrifice. And since you probably will have other creatures, you're not going to sacrifice Akroma, so I don't think the black deck has any way of dealing with her. Nope. Merfolk just races her. Yep, that's it. Alright, that's the deck. Let me get this posted. And thank you for your support, Loose Goose Gamer.